Hi, this is Freddie Guerra at Ozone, and today we are going to talk about how we leverage Ozone to try out the open banking payment APIs. As a quick overview and recap, there are four primary steps that are involved in this. You start by getting a client credentials grant, uh, use the token that's generated out of that to post to the payments endpoint. Once that's done, you need to go through a consigned authorization flow. As a first stage of that generates an authorization code, and then we generate an access token of that. Once you have the access token, you use that access token to post to the payment submissions endpoint. So let's look at how we achieve this. Ozone provides a really useful Postman collection that you can download directly from the Ozone client. And the Postman environment can be downloaded as well. So everything's set up and ready to go. And we'll cover this off in a separate video, how we can set this up really easily and like under 5 minutes. So step one, let's go get a client credentials grant. We want a grant which has payments and open ID as the scopes. And if we send that off, Ozone comes back with an access token. We don't need to copy and paste things around because the collection is scripted. So the next time we make a request, it uses the access token that's just been generated. And let's now make a post request to the payments endpoint. We'll make a payment for, let's say, 15 quid. And this goes to this account ending 0103. If we flip over very quickly to the Ozone UI, we can see that this account has a set of transactions right there with a balance of £4,500. And we'll review this at the end of our process to make sure that the payment has actually gone through. So let's stage that payment to start with. Okay, that's worked through fine. What we've got back in the response is a payment ID, and that payment at this point of time is awaiting authorization. It's in the status of accepted technical validation. Uh, a lot of developers, when they start off using the open banking APIs, struggle with getting the authorization code grant working correctly, or the hybrid grant even. Um, and Ozone assists them by providing this page which has all the relevant information collected together in one convenient location. So what we do is we have the client ID, the client secret, the redirect URLs that you've got. Uh, Pick the payment that we've just generated, and it plugs that into the request parameter that needs to be created, builds the request jot out of that, and generates an auth code URL that we can visit. So if I click through on that URL, we end up in the consent authorization flow. I'm going to quickly log in. This is one of the configured PSUs on the bank, and you have a choice of accounts that you can pay out from because we hadn't selected the account when we staged the payment. So let's say we select account ending 102 and confirm that. That's the end of the authorization code grant. Now, if this was part of a normal TPP app, you'd be redirected back to the TPP. But out here we have a kind of dummy page where we can copy this response code from, go back into Postman, and we complete the second stage of that authorization code grant by making a token request again, passing in the authorization code as a parameter. And what we have back is an access token that's bound to those two scopes, and it's also bound to that intent ID. If we were to pick up that ID token and view it in a Jot viewer, we'd see that the intent ID is bound to that ID token. With that sorted, we can go back to the post payments endpoint and submit that payment in. Now you'd have to ensure that the payload that you have over here matches exactly with the payments payload. So unless you've changed something around, uh, things should just work. The amount gets copied across conveniently for us. And if we send that off, we now see that the status has moved to accepted settlement completed, which means the payment has gone through. We can switch over very rapidly to the Ozone side of things again. And if we review the account from which we'd made that payment, looking at the transaction, and there we see that there's a credit of £15 into that account that we were going to credit. We've also made the payment from one of the Ozone accounts, the one ending 102. If we flip across to that account now and look at the transactions, we should find a debit transaction for £15. I hope you enjoyed that.